Okay. Well, I'm going to switch to English now. I've just realized I need to do that language switch now I'm talking to you here. This will be going out with a 30-second delay. So as everyone's joining, I'm going to welcome them. And Ramiro, I'm just super excited to be here. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I invite you to ask us questions in the chat if you have any. Ramiro is going to help us answer as many questions as we can at the end. But the idea is that this is a 15-minute power session. So we're going to go through a lot of information in rapid fire in just 15 minutes. So you'll hear everything you need to know about US immigration and about the process and about the visas within the 15 minutes. And then after that, we'll stay on for a little bit if there are any questions to answer. So today, what we're going to be covering are 3 mistakes that every tech founder makes during their visa application and how to avoid them. And also, Ramiro is going to be giving us an immigration action plan that you can put into motion in 2 minutes without showing any of your data. So I will, before we dive into that, brief introduction. Those of you that don't know me, which you should, you should know who I am. I'm always on LinkedIn. So if you're seeing this there, welcome. If you're seeing this on YouTube, welcome as well. Please follow along. I am a marketer and I'm working with Ramiro at Tukki, which is a fantastic immigration tool. It's the answer to all of the traditional forms of how we've been doing immigration. As a migrant myself, it's not easy in any country, but from what I'm learning through Tukki, the US is a particularly complex system. And thank goodness Tukki is here to help us with that. Ramiro, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Nadine, and thanks for being here and organizing. This is great. And yeah, indeed, the U.S. immigration system is interesting to say the least. So yeah,
Interesting.
for people that doesn't know me, don't know me, I'm originally from Argentina. I currently living in Miami. I was working before as a management consultant with McKinsey. Before that, I had a very different life as an orchestra conductor and musician. Then came to be a consultant, and when I came to the US, I really suffered the US immigration system. I had a really bad experience, so I decided to do something about it and basically create a tool, a company that could help people, like just make it better, right? So that's what we're doing at Tukki right now, and that's what we're doing, right now, the live to share about a little bit more about this.
And anyone that wants to get to know Ramiro a little bit more, he's very active as well on LinkedIn. You can follow him there. Of course, the website is tukki.ai. And there's something on there that's very special, and we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. But let's dive into it, power through. Tell me, Ramiro, what are the 3 mistakes that every tech founder makes?
Yeah, I mean, we see this very often. So I'd say the first one is actually just going with a certain visa because someone told you, a lawyer, a friend, you saw someone else do a particular type of visa. So at the end of the day, you just go with that, and maybe there was like a better visa for you, right? So just not taking the time on day one to understand what are all the options, what are the pros and cons, right, and decide thoroughly. Like just at least take some time to understand. I said the second thing is once you do choose your type of visa, right? Not understanding the full implications, right? There's certain visas that allow for take another one after and renew them. There are certain that have limitations. Some of them allow your spouse to work. Some of them don't. Some of them have a easier transition to a green card versus another one. You need to change the whole story. So there's many implications, both short term, long term. Which ones allow you for different things, such as working for multiple companies or just one, right? So there's like very, very different implications for very different visas. So I think it's a good thing to first take the time to select what you're really what's the best fit for you and your family. The second one, completely understand the implications of those things, right? And when you do understand what are the options and what's the best fit for you, right? Just sometimes you're not ready for the visa just yet, right? You look at the requirements, you say, well, between all these options, maybe this option is the best for me, right? Let's say the O1, for example. And there are some things you should be doing there are some things you could do to become a better fit for that profile, right? Like, let's say about writing certain articles about your industry, for example, or getting some, press coverage, or being part of a membership or whatever it is, right? And these things take time, right? To authentically get those things, right? So sometimes maybe you're not in a hurry and you're thinking of doing this next year, and there's definitely a lot of value in understanding these things early on. And if you need to strengthen your profile, you actually have time to do that, and you become a much better fit for that particular visa, and you have an easier time later.
Can you give any examples of how to strengthen your profile?
Yeah, for example, I mean, it depends a ton on the type of visa, right? But we do a ton of, like, for example, O1s, the Extraordinary Ability Visa for founders.
Mm.
And some of those things, for example, writing articles, right, or in your industry, if you are a specialist in a certain topic, right, if you write a few specialized articles on specialized magazines for your industry, right, like that's one way of showing that you're a thought leader, right, and you're influencing your field. If you participate of accelerators or memberships that are hard to get into, right, and you can show that you were part of that. If you are judging the work of others, right, maybe you're a panel on a pitch night, or a certain organization, even maybe the association you joined, right, and you
Right.
are judging the work of other fellow entrepreneurs or business people, right? Like these are all things that could really help you build that profile. Sometimes I have entrepreneurs, right, that they are getting asked for by journalists, to cover their work, and they're just busy and they say no, right? And sometimes, hey, you can say yes, and that's also going to, because O1 is not just about being, extraordinary, but just showing, right? It needs to be visible. So there are certain things that you can really do, and actually are going to help you in your career as well. So it's not that it's just for immigration purposes, but there are many things where it can really help you, and it's good to know them in advance, because, as I said before, some of these things really take some time, right, to build.
So knowing the options that are available to you are super important, and knowing all these things in advance, being able to prepare ahead of time, those things are all really important. What are the mistakes you've seen people making?
So yeah, I mean, the most common one is just going ahead with a visa without, like I talk with so many people, right, and many of them later on became our clients, that they were on a path already that wasn't the best for them, and they spent thousands of dollars and time and effort, and sometimes they had to leave the country, in a rush, or it was just like, it's so frustrating, right? Like, you spend so much money, so much effort, you bring your whole family,
Yeah.
and then you realize there was a much better fit for you, right? And it's just like so much energy and time and money put into that, right? So you might as well really go with the right one, right?
And is there any like backpedaling process once somebody started on a visa process, if they've applied to the wrong kind of visa?
I mean, yeah, you
For
can.
those,
No, I mean, it's not that you are. There's only certain type of visas that have some restrictions later on, specifically the J visa. Sometimes depending on a specific thing there, you might get, but in most cases you can just apply for another one, right? But these are expensive processes, long processes, so it's a lot of effort. It's not that you cannot do it. And actually, sometimes when you applied for a green card, right, you are declaring immigrant intent, right? So sometimes it's not free, right? Like, sometimes you do something and then it has consequences for not being able to do something else later on. So
yeah.
definitely, you always need to chat with a lawyer, right? And by the way, just as a caveat, right, like, I am not a lawyer, this is not legal advice. We do have a lot of experienced lawyers working with us at Tukki, right? And every time anyone interacts with us, of course, it has access to our technology and all of the good things of our process, but you also are working with very experienced immigration attorneys that can provide all this specific advice to your particular case, right? And by the way, we do have, and I think that's what you told at the beginning, right? Like, we, having seen this, right, so many times, we actually developed a free tool that is on our website. If you go to our website, tukki.ai, to the visa match section, right, you can do an assessment in 3-4 minutes, and you'll get a very good high level. It's not going to replace a conversation with a lawyer, but very quickly you're going to have a good sense of what are the overall options for you, right? And what are the pros, what are the cons, what are the things you need to take into consideration, and can be a great first step to understanding all the options prior to moving ahead with a conversation with a lawyer.
Absolutely. I've just dropped that link in the chat, and I'm sorry, you will all see if I open the chat today that the chat overlay is not working. Your comments aren't coming in. Thank you to all of the people that are commenting. I'm going to read some of them out, super low tech, because of course, and Restream, I'm calling you out. Restream, this is not working. So Sandra Wilson says, it will save so many people the hassle of doing it on their own. I know a few Canadians who tried to get their green card. I guess this is in the US, and it took years, lots of money, years of stress and worry. This seminar is well worth the time to learn more. So thanks for that. Such a lovely thing to say, Sandra.
Actually, we had that with a Canadian person, a girl last week. She had paid like $500 for an attorney, and the attorney basically told her that there was not a good way for her to come to the US. She suggested actually staying in Canada and her boyfriend moving to Canada. And then she did the assessment tool from our website, and she found out about the TN visa, right? That for some crazy reason, the Canadian attorney hasn't mentioned, right? And now she's starting the TN visa, right? And she was super happy. So yeah, it's incredible, like what things can happen there.
If you haven't noticed, Ramiro is mentioning all these names like H1, TN, you just said, all of these terminologies, they're all visa kinds. And for me, this is fascinating because I live in a country where there's just a couple. You can get a residency, you can get a work permit, and that's kind of it. Those are the two routes that you can take. The US, and this is why I say it's so complex. And Melissa, thank you. Yes, this is a great topic for many people on LinkedIn and beyond. I think as well, even for some of us to understand how hard it can be to migrate, so that when people do immigrate to our countries, it's often how many hoops they've jumped through and how outstanding they are. We haven't gone through all the mistakes though, have we?
I mean,
did we cover 3 mistakes already?
So yeah, I think the limitations. Yeah, no, it's fine. Like committing to the visa path, and then not understanding all the limitations, and then not building your profile ahead of time. Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so don't leave it too late. Build your profile ahead of time, and know all of your options. So we're coming up to the 15-minute mark. We have done, I think I'm just self-congratulating here. We've done such a good job of getting through so much in so little time. And I'm going to invite everyone, as I have throughout, please drop in your questions in the theater. Although they're not populating here, I am in LinkedIn and I'm looking at them, so I'll see them as they come through.
Okay.
And I have one question here, which I'm seeing in the chat. Okay, I'll start with this one. I'll read it out to you, Ramiro. I'm sorry that I can't show it to you. Is it harder to get a visa as a tech founder than other kinds of entrepreneur?
No, actually, no. Actually, it's, if anything, sometimes it's easier, right? Because when you're a tech founder, right, especially a VC-backed founder, right, like a lot of times you have a ton of categories that you're covering, right? Just as a caveat, right? As a sneak peek into the O1, right? The O1 has 8 categories. It's a very typical visa for startup founders in the early stage. And from these 8 categories, right? As soon as you get like VC funding and you get some media coverage and you move ahead, right? Like typically you're already getting 3 or 4 of them. Because of the equity you have that now is priced, and USCIS considers VC funding as an award. That is another category, right? So actually tech founders have an advantage, right, versus in general, right? So I wouldn't say it's a complication, but rather something good.
Okay. Somebody else is asking, thank you for that. Thank you for clarifying it. And if that didn't answer your question to the person who's just coming up as a LinkedIn user, please chat in so that we can see. Another one that somebody asks is about a round of funding. Is it lower stakes? Is having a round of funding a higher or lower stakes? Is that better to do that before you start the visa process?
I mean, having a funding round under your belt is actually better, right? If you're applying for the visa, it doesn't mean it's a requirement, right? But look, USCIS is looking for extraordinary people, right, that have risen to the top of your field and you're recognized as a leader, right? So of course, if you have institutional investors trusting you with their money, right, and we know like VCs end up giving money to like 1% of the founders they talk to, right? So that in itself is a recognition. So of course, like everything you can do, in advance, like raising money, advancing with your company, increasing revenue, or being featured in media, writing articles, like all of these things are going to be positive things. But you need to check case by case, right? And sometimes it's a combination of these things. And when you look at the case, overall, sometimes like people sometimes ask us like, okay, publish materials, right? Press about us, like, how many articles do I need, right? Well, it depends, right? If you're in the cover of Forbes, probably just one, right? But if you only have like, small newspapers, maybe you need more, right? So it's a combination of quality and quantity of the evidence you can
Okay.
provide, right?
Perfect. Yeah, I think we're Ramiro and I are aligned in legal and marketing terms. We always say any answer to any question is it depends. It depends on the person. We're still trying to push them towards like, what should I do? I know you're telling people that they should check out the Visa Match tool, which I think is very quick, right? How long do they need to?
Yeah, it's typically 3 to 4 minutes. It's just multiple choice. There's like some questions here and there.
Mhm.
It doesn't have like every single visa under the sky, but it has like the most common ones, at least employment based. So it should be a very, very good starting point that you can do in 3 minutes and get a good, oversight.
Super useful. Okay. Hi, Amber. Hi, Melissa. Thank you for listening in and chatting in. Short question from Arif is just what's Tukki? So can you tell us what is Tukki, or what are you doing specifically in the space?
Yeah, sure. No, happy to do that. So Tukki, it's our startup that we started last year. So when we saw this process, right, and we started talking with immigrants and lawyers, right, like we found a ton of inefficiencies, right, and I don't think this is something that the lawyers are doing wrong. It's just like it's a lot, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
500 to 800 pages of documentation, lots of forms. You want to triple check everything.
Mm,
The tools out there are not really helpful, right? So it gets to be a frustrating experience for everyone, and overwhelming for lawyers and law firms, and a very bad experience in general for
yeah.
immigrants. So Tukki is a company that is merging the two things, right? Like we're bringing experienced lawyers and paralegals and mixing that with a platform, that our platform, right? So we manage the entire case through the platform. So we bring the immigrants hire us directly. We bring the lawyers, we partner with them, and then we manage the entire case, right, for our clients,
Mm.
basically. So that's what we're doing right now.
Wonderful. And I have a question. This is not one that somebody asked, but just is Tukki helping people who are first-time immigrants, or people who need renewals, or just?
Oh, that's a great question. So across the board, right? Like we have clients that they are outside of the U.S. and they want to get their first visa, right? Coming to the U.S. We also have clients that are actually in the U.S. and they want to get a green card, or they want to change to another visa. So we are helping them across the board. Yeah. So both archetypes, I would say.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, thank you for answering that. Audrey says it's very informative. Thank you, Nadine and Ramiro. Thank you for joining us, and I hope it was really useful for you, for all the people that did join us. We're coming up on our time. We are very happy to stay here if anyone drops in a question. I'm going to refresh the LinkedIn feed one more time, see if anyone's got a question. Before I do that, though, Ramiro, is there anything that you want to share that you
Yeah,
would
I
like
mean,
to
look,
mention?
like please reach out to us. If you have any questions about your case or about anything in immigration, like we're really, client or no client, potential or no, like we just like helping people with their immigration situation and providing transparency and clarity. That's why we did the visa match tool. We just want to help in general improve the process, right? So please do reach out. My email is ramiro@tukki.ai, or reach out through LinkedIn or whatever. More than happy to chat always about immigration. I'm really passionate about the space, so it's always fun to me, for me to just chat about it. So
This is such a personal space for both of us. It's something that we really actually feel, and a lot of the people that I talk to every day are like, yeah, how needed is that? Like, the space hasn't had any revolution, any real technological innovation in it since forever, since it
yeah.
started. So thank goodness that we've been able to talk about that. And yeah, that's it. Thank you ever so much to everyone who dropped your questions in. I will reiterate what Ramiro said. Please reach out to him, ramiro@tukki.ai. You can also go to tukki.ai and do the quiz, which is super short, on the website. Just go to the Visa Match tool and it'll tell you which visas might be the right ones for you. That can save you literally, I don't know, like 250, $500 that you would have to spend on just your first consultation with a lawyer. Of course, you should talk to a lawyer, but if you can get an idea before you know which sort of lawyer you're looking for, that's going to help everyone. So Thank you again for your time, Ramiro. This was really informative. And again, to everyone who said thank you, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, Aina, everyone.
thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Okay.